maybe they're a senior-dominated defense. I think there's 9 starters that are seniors, and I would say maybe 3 guys minimum, maybe 4 can play in the NFL. So that's why their numbers are so good on defense. Jim Levitt is their defensive coordinator, and he goes all the way back to Kansas State back in the early 90s with the Stoops brothers and all those guys, and has done a really good job. You know, Jim was a head coach at was it South Florida? I think South Florida. And then offensively, their quarterback has been the guy that's made them go. They have three receivers at least that I've seen. I have not watched as much, but Coach Mack's kid is one of them's inside guy, and then they got 2 or 3 other guys that can really run. They've got a running back that's rushed for almost 1,200 yards, and they're you know, they're a good team. You know, they've had some success in the return game. So as I mentioned yesterday to the Alamo Bowl, they hit a home run on a matchup here. They have a 12 team and a 10 team, and I think it's going to be a very exciting game. I'm guessing if you rule out the playoff games just from the interest of the national, from a national perspective, that this will be a game that most people will want to watch as much as any other bowl game.
Mike, you guys went to a lot of three-man odd front. Now they're a 3-4, at least by personnel. You've seen a lot more. Is that starting to become the answer to the offensive explosion? The odd man front, multiple front 7, moving them around, so forth?
From a defensive perspective?
Uh-huh.
You know, it's gaining ground. You know, it's interesting, Robert, that was the structure of defenses when I played in college. You know, you had an Okie front, but the difference then was you had tight ends and fullbacks, so those guys were standing in there. Now they're spread out, so those guys walk off, but it's essentially turned a full circle. Now they will get in a 4-down versus some heavy sets, but they want to base out of a 3-down and bring that extra guy off the edge. That's 98. That comes a lot. I think it's 98 or 38. I saw an 8. I'll make sure I get the right guy, and it's 98.
It's
yeah.
98.
Yeah. So you're seeing a lot of those defenses, but it's just turned a full circle, and it's coming back.
Motivation's always important for a bowl game. Your team's been fairly resilient this year, and you've got a bunch of San Antonio kids, and you've got some seniors everybody respects. Is that a good recipe for having a team that goes into a bowl game really serious about getting it done?
Well, motivation is very important in a bowl game, and Colorado has not been to a bowl since a long time. I'm not sure when it was. So they will be very motivated and excited to be in the bowl game. I heard somebody had mentioned that I guess they were hoping to get into the Rose Bowl and whether they would be excited, but I would not see that being an issue with them. I know how it was here when we got in our first bowl. It make a difference what bowl it is. Plus, they're in a great bowl. That would be my guess. But for us, our guys are back at it. You know, we lifted. We started in meetings tonight, and the coaches they're not all back yet from recruiting. And so in my notes for tomorrow's staff meeting will be the excitement and the energy level of us, because it starts with us. It starts with me and our coaches. And I don't foresee that being an issue, the so-called hangover. And we'll be 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. So they're going to get a break, but we have a good schedule for them. And I don't see any issue with them about being excited about practicing and getting ready to play in a bowl game.
I kind of think the San Antonio kids really, I mean, you got so many kids from that area, they're going to be hyped up. You know how it was when you were a player. Mm-hmm. It was always good when there were a couple of players from the area you were at the bowl game because they served as tour guides.
Yeah, and, you know, it's interesting. You have guys that have been huge impacts. You talk about Trey Flowers and Vincent and Stearns and Zach and Hayes. I'm sure I missed some, but guys that were huge impacts in our team the last few years. But in the end, you know, we have a responsibility in that anytime we have a game, that we're responsible for that preparation to get ready to play in that game. And that's not ever been an issue here. Everybody understands how things work here, so I don't foresee that being an issue. I think they'll have enough motivation. They're playing the 10th ranked team in the country, and that team lost to two really good teams.
How much of a motivation is 10 wins on a season, double-digit wins?
I think that the public likes it, and probably the coaches more. The players, they're so day to day. I'm sure you could ask them. I'm sure they would like to hear that, but I think more so they want to win the bowl game. And our philosophy is we're going down there and have a good time the first couple days, and then as we get close to the game, we'll start to pare that thing down. And I think their goal will be to play good in a bowl game, more so than anything at this time.
Not just the 10 wins, just how important is it for this program to end on a high note this season?
Oh, I mean, we all want to win every game. Last year we didn't end so well with the regular season and then in the bowl, but also it didn't really affect us much. We had a great year this year, so those are hard questions to answer. But believe it or not, they, once the bowl game's over, they get in their off-season routine, then they go to the next step. It's just kind of what they do. But we would certainly like to play really good and win this game.
Coach, have you had conversations with Mason and James about their futures yet, or is that being shelved for after the bowl game?
As always, we have taken the players that want to get a draft feel, and they fill their paperwork out, and that information is sent into the NFL. And they will then respond and tell them or give them a feel for what the NFL thinks about them at this point in his career. And I have not ever got involved in that because I don't really feel like it's my place until they know for sure where they stand with the NFL. And then at that point, they have to talk with their families. And then if we're involved in the latter part of it. But to answer your question, we have not been involved up to this point.
Mike, do you anticipate, I know it's just one game over the course of his body of work, but Mason didn't really get to play Bedlam a year ago, struggled in Bedlam this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a sense that because of the stakes of that game, especially what they meant the last 2 years, Mason might put a lot more weight on that in terms of the decision, that more than another guy would.
In a decision of
whether to come back.
I don't think so, and I'm not sure that it's really fair for me to answer for him. Did you guys talk to him today? Okay. Did y'all ask him?
I did.
Okay. Oh, you're just wanting my opinion.
Yeah.
In knowing Mason, I would say no. I don't think that would factor in, but there are times that I thought I knew what kids were thinking, and I was wrong. So I think you're probably going to get your best information from him.
Oh, Mike, in your time here, how many guys have you had, like Zach Leach, guys who've been starters and very productive starters on different position groups on this team?
You talking about multiple spots?
Yeah, just multiple spots. And guys who not even just multiple spots, but starters and productive guys.
Charlie Johnson did it. I wasn't the head coach. Les was. But Charlie Johnson was a tight end and played tackle, played in the league for a long time. I'm sure there were others, but not as versatile and had gone through as much of a transition that he had. Because when he came in, we tried to get him as big as possible to make him a lineman. Then we tried to get it off of him to make him a tight end, a cowboy back. And so he's had an unusual ride in the way it all came together. But he and Jarwin at that position, those guys are very valuable, and it'd be difficult for us to function on offense without him.
Kind of that selflessness to change positions at a moment's notice. Probably wish all your guys were sort of that mentality, right?
Yeah, and then when we told him we wanted him to go back to cowboy back, he was fired up because he thought a weight loss program would be better for his nightlife in college. And unfortunately, Beach has a pretty good nightlife. So I think he bought into that one fairly easy.
Mike, I know you were asked yesterday on the call about Baylor and the reports and everything. Did you address that with your team at all? Did you bring it up to them?
No, it's interesting, and I talked about this a little bit down in San Antonio. They know me really well, and they know that if there's ever anything that they need information, that I'm going to give it to them first. And they have never come to me about any of those situations or things that they hear, just from the relationship that I have with them. And so I don't really even see a need to address it. And I don't think they give it a second thought, to be honest with you.
Do you know much about Tom Herman? I don't know if we've talked too much about the Texas coaching change.
I've talked to him a few times. I don't know him real well. Obviously, he's got a good track record and done very well in his first 2 years, and got a good job now. But I do not know him real well.
Same as Matt Rule, I'm guessing, with the Baylor side.
That's right. I don't know him real well either. I know his dad better than I know him. But guys done very well. Ironically, I did watch quite a few of their games because it seemed like every time we were somewhere, they were playing on TV at night.
Friday nights.
Yeah, they were night games, and so I did see quite a few of their games, and did not know him very well. Looks like to me he's in his early 40s or something. Seems to have a lot of enthusiasm, but obviously he's a good coach.
Alabama influence, he's going to bring a different, if he runs what he ran at Temple, we're going to see I formation and pro split backs. I mean, he's an Alabama.
Did he mention his coordinators or any of that?
Not yet.
I mean, I don't pay
higher.
attention to any of that, but I would say that based on who he hires at those positions, I would guess from an outsider looking in that he would also try to hire some Texas high school coaches. I don't know that to be true, but most of those guys that are not from there, that get in that area, and that could factor in, but we'll watch and see who he hires as coordinator.
Last time you guys were in the Alamo Bowl, you sort of bounced off it in 2011, obviously, went to the Fiesta Bowl. Looking back on that bowl game, how sort of important was that win to carry some momentum into this spring and everything?
At that time, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were all doing the best we could to recruit Whedon and Blackman, and I think at one time I said they were probably the two best recruits that we could sign that year, was to get them to come back. So I would think that game probably helped them. They both played good and kind of instigate, hey, let's do this again. You mentioned Mason, and we've got 3 or 4 guys that are in a position to fill out the paperwork to get NFL information, and I think they're all need another year, just based on me being here. And I told you guys this a few weeks ago, the only guy I ever thought was really ready, other than Whedon, because he was 40 years old or however old he was Pettigrew. He was ready mentally and physically, and he was tough and understood it and got it and all that. These other guys, such a different game. But to go back to answer your question, I think that helped as much as anything with those guys, in my opinion. Now, they didn't tell me that, but that would be a guess on my part.
Mike, I know you addressed it a little bit on the conference call, that 2009 Colorado game. Brandon Whedon says that game changed his life, basically, from where his path went from there. For you in this program, similar effect? Can you pin a surgence of a program on one outcome?
Changed all of us. Whedon wasn't a guy that got a lot of reps in practice because that wasn't our style of offense. And I think that was the game before. Was that the game before that Zach got knocked out?
In the corner of the end zone against Tech.
Yeah, when we told him to not run.
Yeah.
And he did anyway. And then Alex came in because he had been the guy, and then when Whedon came in, and really the first Whedon to Blackman connection started then. And those two guys, along with a lot of other guys, but really changed this place on the short term really fast at that time.
I don't know what kind of second guesser you are. I don't know you well enough to infer that, but if you don't mind me asking, is there something you would do different going back and reclaim Bedlam again? What would you do different?
Oh, I've done a lot of thinking about that. You guys, you do know me. You've been around me long enough to know I believe in preparation, and sometimes I go back and think whether I did the right thing in preparation. From a strategic standpoint, you know, people had mentioned, not people, my kids at my house, you know, would you have gone for a touchdown on the first drive? No. I wouldn't have wanted to lose momentum of getting points. And again, we're not the best short yardage team, and it was a wet surface. They, like all of us, were concerned with Mayfield's ability to run around and make a play. If I had to do it all over again, maybe try to put more pressure on him. But again, you guys know every time you send an extra guy at him, that's one less guy back there. So, you know, maybe some give and take there. Before halftime, we had 18 seconds. We weren't really comfortable with our ability to throw the ball at that time. I didn't want to take a chance on something happening that could really change how we went into the locker room. And when you play a team as good as they are, and you're on the road, and you go in and you say, okay, I can wipe the first half out. We start again. There's only 2 quarters. I thought that was a good move for our team at that time.
I'm sorry, what were you worried about them doing
Well,
at that point?
we hadn't really protected very well.
Okay.
And if 31 strips the ball from us
Okay.
and something crazy happens, and that's a valid question, but a lot of things go through my mind at that time, and we only had 18 seconds and 1 timeout. They were in a drop 8 look when they were covering a lot of ground. When I was thinking through our ability to throw the ball fairly accurate, we've been successful over the years in throwing in an 8-man drop, but it has to be placed in the right spot, and there has to be pretty good velocity to get it there. We hadn't had that luxury up to that point. So those things tied into that. What else would there be?
What about the, brought up the wet balls and Mason not quite being comfortable, but there's been a lot of folks who've gone back to the fact that the 2 deep shots he took were both complete, the one to Seals and then the one to James.
Mm-hmm.
So that would lead some to wonder, well, if those 2 work, why not, even if he's not quite comfortable, put it up and let the receivers try to make it
Well,
work?
it really wasn't the deep ball. You know, if you go back and look, they played with the majority of the time they played with a high safety in the middle of the
Right.
field. So that limits some of that, okay? Now, the times that we hit it, there wasn't one there. What got us were the intermediate throws, and that more so than the deep ones. But those are good questions, you know. I mean, from an outsider looking in, from fans that know some football but don't know the details of it, it wasn't really those. It was the intermediate stuff that got to us. What I did like, and I told the team this today, I said, I liked how they prepared. I told you guys that. And they know if I don't, I'll tell them that. But I liked how physical they were. I liked that they hit and they were aggressive. Very few games where there's 2 teams that are playing that are really good, and you win the special teams battle and you win the turnover battle. You most of the time you win. They killed us on the big plays, which we all know that. But that was really our thought on that. What else would there be? Anything else?
Mike McIntyre's won about every Coach of the Year award there's been this season here.
Deservingly so.
And, you know, it's interesting in his case, after his first 3 seasons, they weren't playing all that great. They hadn't won a whole lot of games, but they stuck with him, so we don't see him college football often. Is that sort of, in your mind, how it should be? Do some of these guys get ousted a little earlier than maybe they should?
They do. I mean, but coaches, you know, we all stick together. See, but I'm looking here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seniors on defense. Junior, senior, and another senior on offense. So he's got him. This is his. You know, he's rolled up his guys, and so he ought to have that opportunity to bring some people in and get his coaches in and get his system in. And I know Coach, but I obviously haven't worked with him. But when I watch from the outside in, there's a lot of similarities in the development of his team that we've had here, the kind of the way they are and their approach and their thought process and stuff. And so I'm going to guess that he's probably pretty impressive to his brass, whoever makes the decisions at Colorado, and they probably feel pretty comfortable in saying, okay, let's give the guy a shot, and it worked out for him now.
It's tailored a suit in New York tonight for the Heisman. Deserving, I would imagine.
I think so. How many are there?
Just three finalists.
So who else is in it? Do anybody know what
The guy
plays?
from Pittsburgh offensive line took an end around and dove in for a touchdown, I think, and a Monmouth guy who had a pass. No one who's blocking Case found pitches.
Yeah, so he really, he ought to win. But it's a neat deal for him. He gets to, goes to New York and gets to do that. What a great experience. And he won't practice with us tomorrow, I guess. He'll probably miss that. I don't know when he's coming back. But pretty neat deal for him. And he was good at it. When it happened that day, I told everybody, I said, that was pretty impressive. So that's neat. I don't know who orchestrates that award, but it's pretty cool that they do that. And obviously they've got some money together if they're getting people to New York City. So
He's going to be nagging you for the James Castleman treatment. And
well, yeah, he's kind of started on that. Maybe we ought to look at it. The difference is Castleman was catching and running. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with Vincent running the option at any particular time. So